Our story begins with Jack, where he walks to his mother's grave carrying a letter from Belgrave University. He had a special reason for coming here because his mother always wanted him to study at Belgrave, and now he finally got a letter. He wants to read it at her grave because it feels like she is watching over him. As he carefully opens the envelope, he notices the words and suddenly freezes. The letter says, "Sorry," and Jack feels a heavy weight because it means he did not get in. Meanwhile, far away at Belgrave University, Chancellor Vera Stone is arguing with Margaret Crane. Vera says Jack is smart, talented, and capable of handling anything, while Margaret interrupts constantly and points out all the reasons Jack should not be admitted. Their voices rise as they argue, and finally, Margaret breaks a blue rose petal, leaving the room. This is her way of canceling Jack's admission, and back at the grave, when Jack reads the letter, he feels crushed. Then the story changes quickly. Vera picks up the broken rose and magically fixes it with a small gesture, and at the same moment, the words on Jack's letter change. Now it says he has been accepted, with a full scholarship even. Jack feels joy rushing through him, and he can barely believe it. Jack lives with his grandfather, Peter Martin, who once worked at Belgrave University and still knows the campus well. On Jack's first day, he wakes up early, and Peter tells him to get ready, and reminds him about his father Edward, who neither he nor Jack likes. They look at a photo and complain about Edward's mistakes for a moment, then Peter drives Jack to the university. When Jack arrives, he meets his RA Randall, who shows him to his room. His roommate Clayton seems strange, and Jack cannot get used to him quickly. While exploring the dorms, Jack notices a student across the hall named Weston, holding a blue rose like the one Vera and Margaret had. Jack tries to ask about it, but Weston shuts his door fast before answering. Later, Jack runs into Weston and his friend Gregory again. Jack congratulates Weston, saying that the secret society selected him, but Weston acts like he does not know anything and suddenly attacks Jack. Jack dodges and quickly knocks him down. At that moment, a senior student named Elisa, who is giving a campus tour, laughs at the scene. Jack realizes he knows a lot about Belgrave, so he starts telling everyone about the school's history, surprising Elisa because he seems to know even more than she does. As the tour continues, they reach the most haunted building on campus. Jack tells the students there are 8 ghosts inside, and the scariest is a woman who screams at night. Elisa laughs, thinking it is just a rumor, while Jack looks serious. Later, Randall meets Jack again and explains a little about the Order, a secret society in the library basement whose members are called neophytes. Jack wants to join the Order, though the reason is not clear yet. Randall seems a little worried, like he is hiding something, and Jack notices it. The next morning, Weston goes jogging near the forest but is suddenly attacked and killed. When the news spreads at the university, people start suspecting Jack because of the fight they had earlier. Chancellor Vera and Detective Hayashi question him. Jack explains calmly that Weston started it, and they can ask Elisa about the tour. Hayashi lets him go, but Vera warns Jack firmly that nothing like this should happen again, or he will be expelled. After Vera leaves, Jack finds a blue rose and a small card on his bed. It's a test for new students chosen to become neophytes. Jack heads toward the forest, where several students are already gathered. He asks a student named Amir if he missed anything, but Amir doesn't answer. Suddenly, mysterious people wearing white masks appear. They show a coin and tell the students to find it somewhere in the college without talking or helping each other. One of the masked voices sounds like Elisa, but with masks on, Jack cannot be sure. Later, in Professor Eric's class, Jack thinks about the clue while sitting quietly. Eric asks him how sad he is about Weston's death. Jack honestly says he feels lucky because at least one competitor is gone. Eric likes Jack's honesty because he doesn't pretend to be upset. After class, Jack searches for the coin near a giant chessboard. Elisa arrives and starts playing chess with him. Jack notices something strange about her but doesn't mention it. When her friend Kyle comes, Elisa leaves but tells Jack where the English department is. Jack finds it strange since he never asked about it, but he checks the map anyway and reaches the restricted area. There, he sees a student named Todd, badly injured while searching for the coin. The coin is inside a cage with a dangerous animal that attacked Todd. Jack faces many dangers but eventually gets the coin. They return to the masked people. Todd claims he saw the coin first, but the masked group sprays a powder on him, knocking him out. Jack notices Todd suddenly disappears and then the masked figures vanish too. Jack feels confused but realizes everything is somehow connected to him. Later, Jack goes to the hostel with Amir. They hear a student named Dria screaming and find her badly hurt. Jack tells Amir to call 911, but Dria dies shortly after. Detective Hayashi questions Jack again to find out exactly what happened. After the interrogation, Jack meets Elisa, and Todd arrives too, having lost all his memory from the powder, a memory-erasing powder. When Todd leaves, Jack asks Elisa what powder was used, but she hesitates and says she doesn't know. She warns Jack not to ask anyone else about it, then leaves. Jack prepares for his next task. Later, while drinking beer with Amir at the bar, Jack notices something strange about Kyle and quietly starts following him. Jack follows Kyle to the most haunted building in Belgrave Hall, the scariest place on campus. Inside, he finds Elisa, Kyle, Vera, and several others watching past events using magic. Jack is shocked because he had never heard of this before. He goes home and tells his grandfather, Peter, what he saw, but Peter isn't worried. He already knows about Belgrave University and sent Jack there to join the Order and complete an important mission. While talking, Jack feels something in his pocket. It's a notice for his last test. He asks Elisa about it and she warns him that it will be very dangerous. That night, Jack is at his mother's grave, possibly taking the test. He notices Kyle recording him. Kyle threatens that if the footage is shared online or at college, Jack will be in serious trouble. Jack realizes Kyle set this up to get rid of him and feels furious. Suddenly, Kyle attacks Jack with a cut on his hand, using powers Jack didn't know students had. While they are fighting, a large wolf appears and attacks Jack. Kyle runs away, but surprisingly the wolf doesn't hurt Jack. It comes close, then leaves. Jack wonders why the wolf didn't attack him. Meanwhile, Jack escapes into the forest but runs into the masked figures again. From their voices, he recognizes them as Kyle and Elisa, but they are only focused on his test. One of them tells him he failed, and the other sprays memory-erasing powder on his face, knocking him out. When Jack wakes up the next morning, he is in college and sees a broken blue rose, meaning the Order didn't select him. He remembers everything from the previous night because Elisa swapped the powder. Jack confronts Elisa, telling her Kyle set him up. He also mentions the wolf that appeared, which no one knows about. Elisa explains the wolf wasn't part of their test and no one knows why it attacked the neophytes. Jack asks for another chance, but Elisa says the Order doesn't allow second chances for failed tests. Jack goes home and tells Peter everything. Peter researches the wolf and discovers it isn't ordinary. It's a werewolf that has been killing people since the 19th century. Learning this, Jack changes his mindset. Instead of focusing only on joining the Order, he decides to hunt the werewolf because it threatens all the neophytes. Meanwhile, Elisa meets Vera Stone and tells her that a wolf is attacking neophytes, and Jack witnessed it. Vera realizes this is the ancient werewolf from old stories and assures her that expert wizards are handling it, so she doesn't need to worry. Meanwhile, Jack takes a weapon and heads toward the cemetery. At college, he meets Amir, who passed the neophyte test. Jack warns him to stay inside because the werewolf has already killed Weston and Dria and is still loose. Jack and Amir have grown close, and Jack doesn't want the wolf to harm his friend. In the morning, Jack's doubt turns into certainty when the wolf kills Amir too. Jack and the other students find Amir's body hanging from a tree. The wolf attacked him so brutally that it shocks everyone. After Eric's lecture, Jack talks to Randall and tells him everything that happened in the last 2 days. Jack believes the wolf's next target could be another student named Gabriel. He sends Randall to warn others and follows Gabriel himself. Soon Elisa joins him because she is also investigating. She asks if he told anyone, and Jack says yes, one person who trusts him. They follow Gabriel together, but nothing happens until night. When it gets dark, a human-like monster attacks Gabriel. Jack and Elisa manage to save her. After Gabriel leaves, the monster grabs them, but suddenly a woman's voice orders it to come back. The creature runs away. Back at the hostel, he tells Randall everything. Soon, Gregory and Kyle arrive and Jack starts suspecting Gregory. The next day, Elisa explains that the clay creature is called a golem, created by ancient magic. A magical word written on its forehead brings it to life, and if the word is erased, it turns back into clay. Jack then shares his suspicion about Gregory, but Elisa says Gregory would have been selected anyway because of his mother. Later, Jack returns to his room and thinks about his strange roommate, Clayton. On Clayton's desk, he finds clay and realizes Clayton created the monster. Suddenly, Clayton appears and attacks Jack. Jack then sees the magical word on Clayton's forehead and erases it, turning him back into clay. Jack now understands Clayton himself was the golem. He takes Clayton to the Hermetic Order of the Blue Rose, where Gregory is about to be welcomed. After hearing Jack, the ceremony stops. The Order's head revives Clayton and asks who created him. Clayton names Margaret Crane. Margaret and Gregory are arrested. The head of the Order then asks Jack if he wants to join. Jack agrees. Everyone removes their masks and Jack discovers the head is his father, Edward. Edward does not know Jack is his son and treats him normally. Jack tells his grandfather everything. Peter reveals he sent Jack there to get revenge because he believes Edward caused Jack's mother's death. Now that Jack has joined the Order and will learn magic, Peter feels ready to fight Edward. Meanwhile, Jack continues hunting the werewolf. Later we see Edward. He has held Margaret and interrogates her with death lingering above Margaret's head, and if she makes one wrong choice, she would be instantly eliminated. And soon, he orders her death. Meanwhile, Jack stands in front of an old house in search of the werewolf, and as soon as he enters the house, a werewolf appears there. Jack runs for his life and reaches the basement. There, he finds a strange moving box. When he goes near it, the werewolf skin inside the box suddenly sticks to his body. The next day, Jack wakes up to find Randall and his friends Hamish and Lilith standing in front of him. Randall tells Jack that he has now become a werewolf too, part of a group called the Knights of St. Christopher. Jack is confused, but Randall explains that he will get used to it gradually. The wolf skin that stuck to Jack the night before, called the Silver Bag, made him a werewolf. He even hunted his first prey, a deer. The Knights are old enemies of the Order, and their mission is to stop the magic inside the Order. Whenever Jack hears magic being used, his inner werewolf comes out. Randall tells Jack he has to swear an oath to live only for this mission, which would make him a permanent werewolf. Jack refuses and leaves without swearing. Meanwhile, Edward and Vera talk about Jack. Edward wonders how Jack remembers everything even after the memory-erasing powder. Vera thinks Elisa might have made a mistake with the powder. Edward decides to host a small party and invite the new members, including Elisa. Elisa, on the other hand, asks Jack to meet her at the Order's temple and says she will teach him magic once he officially joins. At Edward's party, the new members, including Jack, Gabrielle, and Benito, are given waiter duties as a test of patience. Edward demonstrates a small piece of magic, and Jack's werewolf side starts to emerge. He quickly goes to a room to hide, where Randall waits and reassures him that he will learn to control it. Randall asks when Jack will take the oath because Hamish and Lilith might kill him otherwise. Jack asks for more time. Elsewhere, Edward gives Vera a position on the Gnostic Council, which makes her happy. He explains to Kyle, Jason, and Mary about the obsidian block, a 1,500 to 2,000-year-old magical object with strong protection. The group must break the protection using magic. Elisa writes the spell in her book, but Kyle sees it and uses it himself. The spell backfires and injures his hand. Edward gives them time to recover and asks Elisa to clean the temple before leaving. Jack's grandfather Peter comes to Belgrave and tells Jack that now that he has joined the Order, they need footage to expose Edward and punish him for his actions. Jack explains that being part of the Order is not easy, and that he is still learning many secrets. While they are talking, Jack gets a message from Elisa, telling him she will teach him magic that day, warning him that every spell has a price. Jack knows that using the magic could trigger his werewolf powers. Jack finally gathers courage and tells Elisa how he feels about her. He had liked her from the beginning, but never said anything because he was nervous. After sharing his feelings, he leaves. That night, Jack, Gabrielle, and Benito are partying together. Gabrielle performs a clever magic trick that surprises Jack and Benito. Instead of paying the waiter, she gives an empty paper with magical symbols that look like real money, tricking the waiter. But since every magic has a cost, the waiter drops glasses and gets hurt. Gabrielle explains she learned this trick from Jason, who is easily influenced by love, and then uses magic on him so he feels like he is romancing her. Later, Jack tries the trick himself. His inner werewolf struggles to come out, but he manages to control it and learn the magic. The next day, Jack uses the spell on his Professor Eric because he didn't complete his assignment. The magic works, but the cost falls on Eric, who stumbles and gets hurt. Jack realizes the dangers of magic and decides to avoid small tricks in the future. He, Gabrielle, and Benito plan a bigger spell for real benefit, using a book they secretly take from the temple, not knowing it could be deadly. While partying at a bar, Randall and his friends notice Jack's new wealth and suspect he is using magic. Randall explains Jack is part of the Hermetic Order of the Blue Rose and might be using magic to learn, which calms Hamish but still makes him suspicious. Meanwhile, Elisa asks Vera for access to relics to complete Edward's assignment. Vera warns her to stay grounded because magic is dangerous. Randall and his friends find the magical papers Jack used to learn Gabrielle's trick and decide he is a threat, planning to kill him. Jack meets his grandfather Peter to discuss gathering footage against Edward. Peter worries Jack might be distracted since he joined the Order, but Jack uses Gabrielle's magic to protect him, learning firsthand that every spell has a cost. Later, Jack reports the incident to Gabrielle and Benito. Gabrielle suggests one last spell on Professor Benson to avoid their test. Jack returns the stolen book, but Elisa scolds him for taking it without permission, warning that the spell could be deadly. Jack then rushes to warn Benson, but Gabrielle has already started the magic. The magical energy forces Jack to transform into a werewolf, and he ends up in the forest, waking next to the dead body of Professor Eric, whom he accidentally killed. Jack panics and begins burying Eric while the fate of Professor Benson remains uncertain. Elisa needed more time in the temple because she had broken the protection to take a part of an ancient book. Edward wanted to continue his work on it, and Vera allowed her to use the temple. Before Elisa left, Vera warned her that Edward often makes people feel special, but it's not true. Elisa ignored the warning because she was excited to work on Edward's project. Meanwhile, Randall took Jack to Hamish and Lilith to explain what had happened with Professor Eric's death. Eric and Lilith had planned to kill Jack, but when they learned Silverbag had killed Eric, they paused. Randall locked Jack in the basement while they debated whether to keep him alive. At the temple, Edward showed Elisa the body of Sir Richard, who was both alive and dead, trapped in a dream he could never wake from. He told Elisa she had to enter Richard's dream, steal the book, and return safely, or she would be trapped forever. Elisa agreed and made several attempts to get the book. The dream was dangerous, and she often woke up from fear, but eventually she reached the book. Edward sent her home for rest, knowing she was mentally exhausted. Back in the basement, Jack read books while Hamish, Lilith, and Randall arrived. He explained things they didn't know, including the names of the werewolves inside them: Gribiard, Trunda, Timber, Midnight, and Silverbag. Jack suggested they work together to stop magic users instead of fighting each other. Hamish and Lilith agreed and cancelled their plan to kill him. They began teaching Jack how to control his inner werewolf, but he struggled. Randall guided him to remember the moment he transformed in front of Benson. Flashback shows Jack transformed because Gabrielle and Benito tried to kill Benson with magic, and Eric was affected, causing Benson's car accident. Jack realized magic redirected to harm others but loses strength if stopped. Jack briefly transformed into a werewolf, but only for a few seconds. Randall and Lilith explained that feeling guilty about Eric's death would block his progress. Jack met Elisa, who had returned from Edward's project. They discussed how redirected magic loses power. Jack noticed Gabrielle and Benito casting magic again and ran to tell Randall, Hamish, and Lilith. Jack revealed his plan to find out who Gabrielle was targeting and redirect the magic. They agreed and executed it successfully. Elisa retrieved the book from Sir Richard's dream safely. Jack confronted Gabrielle and Benito, forcing them to reveal they were targeting Benson. Jack, Randall, Hamish, and Lilith arrived at Benson's house in time. They stopped the magic, saved lives, and even destroyed a speeding car threatening Benson. After the mission, the 4 werewolves celebrated saving 10 lives. The next morning, Jack went to Vera, asking for punishment for Eric's death, but she forgave him, explaining that early mistakes are part of learning magic. Jack went to Eric's body and apologized for what happened. Soon, Randall, Hamish, and Lilith arrived, happy with Jack's plan. Jack told Randall he was now ready to fully embrace being a werewolf, and swore he would use his powers only for this purpose. Later, Jack waited for a chance to save someone. He tried to convince the 3 knights to help people in danger, but Hamish, the leader, said they would act only when they heard magical sounds. Soon, they heard such a sound, and rushed to save a woman under a spell who was about to kill her boyfriend in a car. The werewolves intervened and stopped her. Meanwhile, Edward told the Order that only 2 parts of the ancient book remained. Once found, they could use the world's most powerful magic. A woman named Renee arrived, surprising everyone because she had once endangered the Order and had a witch sister. Renee told Edward she had cancer and might soon die. She offered him the necrophone, a tool to communicate with the dead in exchange for curing her. Edward agreed immediately, dreaming of completing the book. He informed Vera, who warned him not to fix Renee's cancer, as any mistake could kill her during the elemental transfer. Edward ignored the warning. Jack and Elisa discussed the Grand Magus project. Elisa had risked her life for Edward because she wanted to become Grand Magus one day. Kyle informed them about an upcoming major spell called elemental transference. Jack shared this with the knights and planned to disrupt it, unaware that Elisa would face the consequences. After Jack sabotaged the spell, Vera stopped Elisa from entering the temple. That night, Elisa went to a bar, and Jack comforted her, saying it wasn't her fault. Meanwhile, Hamish and Lilith debated Jack's presence in their team, but Hamish trusted Jack's choice. Later, Jack and Kyle prepared to meet 5 people whose sacrifice was intended to help Renee. Lilith attacked, questioning Jack, but he explained Edward's plan and that saving them might cost thousands of lives later. Hamish allowed it, though Lilith disagreed. The spell began. Renee's cancer was transferred into the 5 people, making her healthy. Edward demanded the necrophone stored at Renee's home, so he ordered Jack and Elisa to retrieve it. Meanwhile, Hamish and Lilith decided the 5 must die to ensure the spell worked. They killed the guards and the 5 people, returning the cancer to Renee. Jack and Elisa stayed in a hotel with the book, uneasy about sleeping alone. We see Renee's twin sister, Visca. She is devastated seeing Renee's body and wants her necrophone back at any cost. Meanwhile, Jack and Elisa are in a hotel room together. When Elisa goes to the washroom to change, Jack opens the box containing the necrophone. Elisa shouts at him not to touch it, warning that any dark magic from it could cause serious trouble. Soon, Visca calls Jack, threatening him. She demands the necrophone back, saying if he doesn't return it, she will kill both Elisa and Pete. Jack and Elisa are confused because Renee shouldn't have died. Her cancer had been transferred into other people's bodies. Meanwhile, Kyle and Benito find the bodies of the 5 people and realize a werewolf killed them. They plan to find and eliminate the werewolves using magical knives, and Gabriel and Benito agree. Jack and Elisa leave the hotel with the necrophone. Outside, a man created by Visca's magic threatens them, but they ignore him and drive toward the forest. Kyle gives Gabriel and Benito a magical drink that lets them detect werewolves hiding in human bodies. Gabriel spots Hamish at college and calls Kyle and Benito. Kyle sneaks into the classroom and stabs Hamish with the magical knife. Hamish's wound does not heal due to the knife's magic, so he attacks Kyle and hides, later calling Randall to explain. Jack and Elisa are worried because they cannot contact Edward. Visca blocks their path and calls Jack, warning that his future is unclear. Jack reluctantly puts the call on speaker so Elisa can hear, but she is told that their goals are the same. Jack explains Visca is just making stories and drives away, but the car breaks down, forcing them to continue on foot. Visca's magic attacks Jack, separating him from Elisa, forcing him to confront her. On the way, Randall calls Jack about Hamish's injury and advises using a brown book to heal him. Jack reaches Visca, while Hamish manages to survive and is healed by Randall. Jack gives the necrophone to Visca, who contacts Renee. Renee warns her that Jack is a werewolf. Jack transforms into Silver Bag, injures Visca, and rescues Elisa. Later, Kyle and friends search the forest, unaware of Hamish and others' trickery that makes Kyle turn into a werewolf, causing him to attack Gabriel. Gabriel kills Kyle with a magical knife. Jack takes Elisa and Pete home, while Gabriel and Benito deliver Kyle's body to Vera. Jack manages to recover the necrophone and takes Elisa and Pete to use it safely. They prepare to communicate with Chloe and Pete, but Chloe reveals she only wants Edward, causing Pete to angrily break the necrophone, though Elisa witnesses everything. Elisa sees everything and then, scared, she runs away from Jack's house. Later, we see Jack coming out to stop Elisa, but she tells him he's not trustworthy. She says he tricked her because he didn't tell her about the werewolf matter. After saying that, Elisa leaves. Jack goes inside and gets angry at his grandfather, Pete. Pete tries to calm him, saying not to get caught up with Elisa, that he'll find another girl and he doesn't even need to work for the Order anymore. But Jack can't understand what Pete wants because before he told him to join the Order, and now he's saying to leave it. Jack feels like Pete is controlling him, so he storms off. Meanwhile, Elisa goes to the temple to meet Vera. Vera had also called Gabriel. Elisa hides the necrophone issue and just tells Vera there's a problem with it. Vera tells her to inform Edward about it, and Elisa leaves. Vera then gives Gabriel a magical hand to help interrogate anyone about werewolves. If anyone lies in front of it, their soul will feel pain. With this power, Gabriel becomes stronger and can question any student in college. Later, at night, Vera hosts a party at Grand Magus with Edward and other big Order members because she's now the head of the Gnostic Council. She talks to Edward about Wade Mackham, thinking adding it might be a bad decision. Meanwhile, Jack tells his 3 knights about the necrophone. To cheer him up, they all go to a bar. A boy named Sam flirts with Ruby there, but Randall also likes Ruby, so he steps in. Jack and Lith argue with Sam, and Hamish joins in the fight. Randall tells Ruby to come somewhere quiet, not knowing where she'll take him. Elisa goes to Jack's house to get the necrophone back, but Pete tells her she must convince Jack to leave the Order first. Elisa agrees, because she needs the necrophone. Later, Gabriel questions Selena, who suggests he should talk to Elisa because she was Kyle's ex. Jack asks Elisa if she told anyone about the werewolf, and she says no. She tries to convince him to leave the Order, but he refuses. Then Hamish calls Jack, telling him Randall has been missing since last night. Jack rushes to his team to find her, while Edward talks to Vera about Wade Mackham. She gives him a magical drink that makes lying impossible. Edward explains he wants to cure all diseases to save his son, not for selfish reasons. Vera is silent, remembering her own daughter who died years ago. She gives Edward a piece of Wada Mackham, fulfilling part of his dream. Later, Pete fixes the necrophone and talks to Edward's second wife, Sophia. He asks if Edward killed her, like he did his first wife. Sophia says she was the price Edward had to pay for his magic. Pete asks for a way to save Jack from Edward, but Sophia says it's too late. It was impossible to get out. Elisa tells Pete to protect both Jack and Maddox from Edward, because he would do anything to achieve his goals. Meanwhile, Jack and Elisa are still arguing about whether he should stay in the Order or not. Suddenly, Gabriel arrives yelling at Elisa to take her boyfriend to the temple immediately. At the temple, Gabriel starts using the magical hand to torture Elisa because she might know something about werewolves. Jack grabs the hand to save her, but Vera arrives and orders it to stop. Jack angrily tells Vera he won't work for the Order anymore because when things go bad, they hurt their own members. Benito fully supports Jack. Vera decides Gabriel won't interrogate anyone anymore, leaving her plan to get the truth incomplete. Outside, Elisa and Jack hug because both risked their lives to protect the ones they love. Pete watches from a distance, still worried about how to save Jack from the Order. In another scene, Edward talks to his son Maddox. Maddox notices a locket around Edward's neck. Edward explains it's a magical necklace that makes people hear what he wants. meaning everything he told Vera was a lie. The necklace also makes magical drinks useless on him. Meanwhile, Randall, who hasn't been found yet, wakes up locked in a lab room. Even with his werewolf powers, he can't break the door. The lab belongs to Dr. Homings from the Order, who wants to create more werewolves from Randall's DNA. Later, Jack introduces Elisa to his fellow werewolves because only she can help find Randall. Lilith is unhappy, but Hamish says Jack did the right thing. Using some magical tools, Elisa creates a compass that points to Randall. All the werewolves leave, unaware of what Homings is doing to him. Homings tricks Randall into a blood test and secretly implants a magical coin that will make him uncontrollably angry. Meanwhile, Maddox accidentally joins two pieces of Waitemacum, releasing a man who threatens Edward, forcing him to connect his soul to protect his son. Elisa and the others follow the compass to the lab, which has many rooms full of monsters, making Randall hard to find. Hamish splits the team. Elisa and Lilith search for Randall, while Jack and Hamish go together. Hamish shares his past with Jack, explaining how his girlfriend Casey became a werewolf and died, which is why he dedicated his life to this mission. Inside one room, they see Sam, who warns them to leave because Homings treats humans badly. This makes finding Randall even more urgent since he's already a werewolf and experiments on him could be disastrous. In Homings' lab, Ruby, a junior doctor, and Homings try to make Randall turn into a werewolf by sending monsters at him. Randall refuses to transform but still defeats all the monsters. Then Elisa reminds Lilith of old memories proving they were together in first year, shocking Lilith into realizing Elisa knows secrets no one else could. Elisa reminds Lilith that she was in the Order with her before. Lilith is shocked because she doesn't remember anything. After being expelled from the Order, memory-erasing powder had been used on her, making her forget all her past. Meanwhile, Edward sends Maddox outside for a while, and a man starts introducing himself. He says he is Jorgan Sawyer, who had once tried to join pieces of Waitemacum like Edward, but he failed. Werewolves always wanted to destroy Waitemacum, and they trapped him in the book. To complete Waitemacum, a person has to link it with their body. Jorgan did this too, but the werewolves broke the pieces, turning him into one and trapping him in the book. Edward asks what he should do now. Jorgan tells him to bring him a body so he can transfer his soul and be free. In return, Edward will get Waitemacum. Edward agrees. Meanwhile, Homings keeps trying to make Randall a werewolf, but nothing works. He sends Ruby to his room. Randall gets emotional seeing her, thinking Homings hurt her like he hurt him. A speaker tells him Ruby was used to trap him. This makes Randall furious, and he finally transforms into a werewolf and attacks Ruby. Homings orders his assistant to take a sample to make a werewolf army, but Jack and Elisa arrive. Using magic, Elisa knocks Homings out and checks CCTV to find Randall. She texts Hamish the info. Edward brings a student's body for Jorgan to transfer into. Once free, Jorgan goes back on his promise, so Edward hurts himself magically to make Jorgan feel the pain. Jorgan threatens Edward, but Edward refuses to die first. Jorgan dies, and the student's soul enters his body. Edward tells him to clean up the mess and promises an island as reward. Edward is now unstoppable, but he still needs Maddox's sacrifice to fully complete Waitemacum. Meanwhile, Jack and Elisa rescue Randall and put a coat on him. Elisa realizes Homings used magic to make monsters that increase anger, which was why Randall's coin amplified his rage. Homings appears, and Randall tells Jack and Elisa to leave him alone for a while. He kills Homings, and the Knights go home. Jack blasts Homings' lab to prevent further experiments. At night, Randall behaves oddly. Elisa explains Lilith was in the Order, which angers Randall more. He tries to attack Hamish. Elisa and the Knights manage to remove the coin from him, calming him. Lilith no longer stops Elisa from going home. Jack walks her to her room, but she doesn't want to leave. Jack explains why he hid the truth about Edward and shares the pain his mother suffered. Elisa feels his pain and forgives him. Later, Edward talks to Maddox, asking for his help to complete his magic, though Maddox doesn't know what that means. On the way back, Jack can't stop thinking that leaving Elisa alone was a mistake. Jack starts heading back to Elisa's house, but when he arrives, he sees Edward's car with Elisa inside, being taken somewhere. Where Edward is taking her is unknown. However, Edward explains the last part of Waitemacum to Elisa. He says Waitemacum is a contract, and to complete it, he has to link himself to the book. Edward cuts his finger, lets the blood fall on the book, and asks Elisa to witness it. She cuts her thumb and puts it on the book, too. Once the process is done, Waitemacum pulls the last piece toward itself like a magnet. Meanwhile, Jack and the knights hear strange magical sounds caused by the Order's spells, but they ignore them for now. Randall suggests they should try magic to restore Jack's old memories. They first try it on Lilith, then on Jack, and everyone agrees. The next day, Pete comes to Belgrave to convince Jack to leave the Order. Jack shows his werewolf power, explaining he is stuck between two groups. Pete doesn't realize Jack is now a werewolf. Jack refuses to attack Edward because he needs to find out what Edward is looking for. Vera talks to a lady named Kepler, explaining that the werewolves killed Dr. Homings and destroyed his lab carefully so no one would know. Edward shows up, saying he is close to completing Wade Mackham, and that he gave Homings the job instead of Vera so nothing would stop him. Randall and Hamish restore Lilith's memories using magic, but she reacts violently and starts breaking things. Jack tells them he is leaving the Order and will announce it himself, with Randall accompanying him to the temple. Inside, Benito tells Jack a big change is coming and they are preparing for it. Jack tells Elisa he plans to leave the Order, but he hears the magical voice from Wade Mackham. Approaching the book, a page touches him, hurting him and making him sick. Elisa brings him to Randall, who takes Jack home, while the knights figure out how to fix him. Jack's body is fighting the silver bag inside him, worsening his condition. He warns them the Order is planning a huge magic called Wade Mackham. Lilith is shocked to hear the name because her restored memories reveal how powerful the book is. Jack ends up in the afterlife, meeting Amir, who explains Jack is near death but his soul arrived here early. Jack doesn't understand this world, but Amir gives him a drink. Meanwhile, Elisa learns from Lilith and Vera that Edward is linking himself to Wade Mackham and plans to sacrifice his son to complete it. Elisa is shocked and explains to Vera what Edward asked her to do. Together, they start making a plan. Pete arrives and sees Jack's terrible state. Randall tells everyone they need to remove the silver bag from Jack's body. The knights work together to extract it, which also involves dealing with Wade Mackham itself. The last piece of Wade Mackham comes out along with the silver bag stuck to it. Even after separating the silver bag, Jack doesn't wake up. Everyone realizes Jack has left them. Pete holds Jack and cries, then leaves angrily, probably upset with Edward for causing the loss of his daughter and now his grandson. Meanwhile, Jack finds himself in the memory world, where he realizes he isn't in the afterlife. He understands these are Elisa's memories, and he needs to get out because he's still alive in the real world. Hamish studies the silver bag and Wade Mackham's history and discovers that years ago, a knight named Jorgan's sire tried to complete Wade Mackham but failed. The book was split into pieces, and Jorgan had linked a part with the silver bag. That is why the piece inside Jack came out now. Lilith goes to put the silver bag back in the box, but ends up magically taken to the temple because Wade Mackham's fourth part tries to attach itself to the book. Edward takes Lilith and the silver bag to complete Wade Mackham. Jack realizes he must strengthen his mind to leave the memory world. Once he decides he doesn't want to die, he returns to reality and tells Hamish and Randall that Lilith is in the temple, captured by Edward to prevent interference. Jack's wounds are not healing without the silver bag, so Hamish suggests he wear Midnight's skin, a protective sacrificial armor. Jack agrees and puts it on. He, Hamish, and Randall head to the temple to save Lilith and Elisa. Elisa reaches the temple, finds Lilith weak from Edward's magic, heals her, and they plan to deal with Edward. Elisa distracts Edward with Vera's blood on a dagger, while Lilith, as a werewolf, fights him. Elisa tries to escape with Wade Mackham, but falls just outside the temple as Edward comes out. She leaves the book behind and joins Jack. Edward takes Wade Mackham and re-enters the temple. Meanwhile, Pete shows up with a gun to end Edward. He is happy to see Jack alive, but Edward blasts him away easily, leaving everyone shocked on how his powers have increased. Jack is deeply upset after Pete's death. Elisa tries to comfort him and says it was not his fault. When the knights return home, Hamish angrily blames Jack and says everything happened because he never listens and always does what he wants. At that time, Lilith is still in the temple, so Randall checks the box to see if she is alive. They feel relieved when they see her werewolf skin is not inside, which means she is still alive. Jack says they do not need to stop Edward because he is Edward's first son. Even if Edward sacrifices Maddox, Wade Mackham will not awaken. Elisa argues that they should still save Maddox, but Jack does not seem to care. He goes home to use the necrophone to contact Pete. Meanwhile, Edward tells Kepler that Vera betrayed him and the werewolves are after him, so Maddox must be brought quickly. Jack cannot find the necrophone because Pete hid it. Frustrated, Jack loses control and turns into Midnight, destroying things around the house. Elisa calms him down and reminds him that Maddox is his brother. After convincing him, she calls Vera. Together, they decide to stop Wade Mackham using a potion called Nephilim Tears, which can destroy magic. Vera needs rare books and ingredients, So Jack takes her to the werewolf basement and tells Randall and Hamish not to question her since she is helping. Jack and Elisa go to rescue Maddox, but Hamish and Randall have already moved him. Edward arrives, knocks Elisa unconscious, and demands his son back. Jack makes a deal. He promises to return Maddox if Edward spares his friends. Edward agrees but takes Elisa with him as insurance. Later, Lilith escapes from Gabriel and Kepler and returns home. Gabriel's team surrounds the house. Hamish and Vera handle them while Randall confesses his love to Lilith, and she accepts him. Jack then makes a bold plan and brings Clayton back to life. At the temple, Edward tries to sacrifice Jack, but it is actually Clayton in disguise. The real Jack appears, and time runs out. Wadmakam consumes Edward, and Vera destroys the book. After the victory, Vera becomes Grand Magus. Jack visits his mother's grave and says he has taken revenge. Elisa hugs him, but then secretly throws memory-erasing powder on him. Jack forgets everything, even Elisa, and this is where our Season 1 of The Order ends.